Well, goddammit, fellas. Would you check out this pretty crumpet? So, this is Priti Patel, for anyone who doesn't know. And she's the Home Secretary here in the UK. And there's been a bit of a to-do about the way that she talks to people. Apparently, some people appear to believe this woman is a menace. She is just going around bullying people. Alright? I know what you're thinking. How can I pay this woman to bully me? I mean, she is just too delicious. How did she get into this position? Well, it's difficult to say. Maybe we just live in a really racist country where people of ethnic origins are prejudiced against by apparently everyone. It could be. Maybe it's because she's a woman. Alright? Who knows? I would love to know what caste she's from. I don't think she's a Brahmin. Probably a Shudra. I mean, she seems just a bit too emotional to me, but... Well, there you have it. So, Priti Patel, in relation to the Home Office, has been throwing her weight around, and her face belies that she's kind of a dumpy girl, actually. Like she's definitely one of them Marilyn Monroe quote posting curvy females out there. Um, but yeah, a lot of sad looking older guys have been coming out of the Home Office in tears over she said some mean shit to him. And the really striking thing is that she's acting like she doesn't know what they're talking about. She's saying, I'm so sorry, it was all unintentional, I didn't know what I was saying. Woman, you are you are a government minister, alright? You are a deputy head. You are in charge of home affairs. How is it you don't know what you're saying? Alright? I know you got this cheeky face. This is a pretty cheeky face. This is the same picture they use on a Wikipedia page now, and it is, I love it. I love that they've done that. The signal that sends is just beautiful. But I mean, it's easy to hate pretty people, right? It's really easy to hate them because either you're not a pretty person or you can't get what you want from pretty people. To their face, you'll be nice to them because you at least want to try, but behind their backs, you gotta try and bring them down because they're just doing too well. And Priti Patel is in that group. Uh, she probably is a bully. In fact, I guarantee it. All right, she's a status-seeking desi, and I have no doubt she'll do whatever it takes to get to the top. And I'm sure in her past she's had to step on quite a few guys to get there, maybe even some girls. So I doubt that she's. I think this is a behavior that has a pattern, and I hope that it works for her. I hope that her like feigned ignorance to the fact works for her. I hope she gets away with it. I have no doubt that she will continue to be successful because she's driven, like insanely driven, and I don't think other people matter to her. So I can't see her failing, right? If she doesn't have to consider these things, then that's just one less obstacle for her success. And I'm kind of for it, actually. She is a bully, right? Like we can look at the text of the actual report if you like. It was posted a while ago, and I will just read directly from it now, okay? So there's some interesting parameters with which they want you to understand the text with. They try to give you some definitions before they get into it about how they see bullying, how they see harassment, and let me just cut that shit out, and I'll get straight to the meat of the matter and what the report actually deemed palatable to say, that they could just about struggle to get their words out over this. Um, Alright, let's take a look. Alright, they want to start off with blaming the Home Office first, right? So, the Home Office was not as flexible as it could have been in responding to the Home Secretary's requests and directions. She has legitimately not always felt supported by the department. All right, anyone who's worked in management knows this strategy, right? I wasn't supported. Like, I don't think I received the necessary support, and I know that there's institutional change and improvement that could happen to facilitate a positive outcome in the future, right? We're all aware of this, okay? So this is the boilerplate managerial response that you are just expected to give, and if anything, it's just a token to your professionalism that you're able to like predict this is going to come and that you know what to say. So the first deflection of responsibility is it's not my fault. I'm actually the victim, and we love that shit, right? We can't get enough of victims. We just need more of them. In addition, it goes on to say, no feedback was given to the Home Secretary of the impact of her behaviour, which meant she was unaware of issues that could have been otherwise addressed. The woman was unaware! She had no idea the things she was saying could affect people, or maybe it came out just, they were a bit too sensitive to what was being told to them, right? The direction is so obvious, and I mean direction in like the artistic sense of direction, that they want you to react in a certain manner, and it's some beautiful deflective work. But I won't say any more. I respect the fact that you guys can read enough into it to understand where I'm getting at, but I'll just go on with what it actually says. So, the writer of the report lists here, my advice is that the Home Secretary has not consistently met the high standards required by the ministerial code of treating her civil servants with consideration and respect. Let's just, for a moment, address the fact that ministers need a code, right? Apparently, there was this, must have been like, Chesterton's fence, why is this even here? Like, let's explain for a second. Imagine, why would there even need to be a ministerial code? Apparently, the situation must have been that somewhere in the past, ministers were just shitting on everyone. Like, these highfalutin, eaten, educated individuals were just... Oh, Priti Patel, I don't believe, is eaten educated, by the way, so that's an aside. But let's go to the kind of... She may be a fringe case in this regard, which perhaps is the reason they chose to single her out on it. But that's a different story. But let's go back to the main fold here. So, apparently, there were so many instances of this shit happening where these highfalutin individuals who had attained some level of political influence were apparently not being so nice to people. I mean, they must seem nice enough to get voted for, surely. So how is it that there's this massive change in personality out of nowhere when they're actually in positions of power where it turns out they're actually not very nice? How could that have happened? Yeah, that's not an act at all. So apparently, it clearly got so bad that they had to actually write it into a code of these are our community standards. Please be nice to the peasants. They don't appreciate it. So let's see here. Her approach on occasions has amounted to behaviour that can be described as bullying. Here's the kicker. In terms of the impact felt by individuals, right? So this is the beauty of it. They took it from any objective verificationist look at what her activities really were, and they shift the entire focus onto, well, this is just how people feel about it, right? She probably didn't do anything wrong. It's just people were overly sensitive and got upset. No way, all right? I'm sorry. The people in the Home Office, the people in government departments, in the actual civil servants, right? These are where the nuts and bolts of government really lie. This is what turns policy into reality. It's the civil servants. They're the ones who make things happen. These people, on the whole, are not what you would call, a soft touch. They're not just going to be influenced by a bad word and then take it home and just cry about it all night, okay? What Priti must have been doing is that she was making very clear her dislike of individuals and also making very clear of her position to have them removed. And then with that power imbalance, that then sets a very strong expectation of behavior. So you recognize that your livelihood is at threat, your position in your company or whatever is precarious, And then the person who introduces that instability then sets the expectation on you of only addressing and treating them in a certain way, which can be tantamount to subservience. Which is, like I said, I imagine this is exactly what happened. This is the way that I would design such a power dynamic shift, and this is the way it normally formulates in reality. So, by emphasizing that it was just the way that people felt at the Home Office, the paper is actually making huge leaps to try and remove the onus from Priti. And maybe it's somewhat successful in pulling that off. I don't know. I don't know how other people read it, but I hope anyone who's got a bit of experience in this kind of recognizes what's going on. So anyway, after kind of giving this perspective shift on what civil servants actually are, they then tried to paint them out as exactly that, being so sensitive, overly sensitive, that in fact what she may have been doing could feasibly have been very reasonable, but it was their reaction that was unreasonable, and that she is now being pushed to apologize for their unreasonable reaction because she didn't account for it somehow. All right, let me just read in a little bit before I give my final statements. But like, okay, it goes on to say, to the extent that her behaviour has been in breach of ministerial code, even if unintentionally. That was an aside from the previous paragraph. This conclusion needs to be seen in context. I love that. I love that. Here's what the facts are. Here's how we want you to see them. Okay? There is no evidence that she was aware of the impact of her behaviour, and no feedback was given to her at the time. Probably because everyone knew she'd been told it many times before. The high pressure and demands of the role in the Home Office, coupled with the need for more supportive leadership from the top of the department, has clearly been a contributory factor. In particular, I note the finding of different and more positive behaviour since the issues were raised with her. So, you know, I guess it begs some questions. If she was truly ignorant to the effect her behaviour was having, how was she able to institute such a positive change in such a short period of time? It would, again, beg the question that perhaps she kind of knew what she was doing, and then once she was caught, she knew what she should have been doing and went straight to that. So that could be one way of looking at it, I suppose. My main gripe with this entire event is that this is a very intelligent woman. To attain the success she has attained, she clearly is intelligent, but I don't doubt that her role in political life has necessitated her to act in a sometimes I hate to say Machiavellian, because I know people, they have an image in their head that they're just going to immediately be drawn to, but nevertheless there is some truth in that phraseology, that maybe she has had to act in a Machiavellian way in the past, and that the continuation of that kind of activity stopped being tolerated by people under her, and now it's being tried to, the perspective is trying to be shifted away from that and more towards, actually it's the people under her who are the problem and not her. But as I'm saying, I don't doubt she's had to struggle and fight bitterly, and I suspect that that has bred in her some behaviours that, while being somewhat successful, are very unpalatable. And we don't like to hear this about our politicians, I know that. But on the whole, I'm kind of on the pretty girl's side, because I understand that that's what's necessary. And while I'm sure the people who are under her, it was a very unpleasant situation to be in, you know, I do believe that undoubtedly she was denigrating and condescending towards them, and in the truest sense of bullying, I'm sure, to elicit responses that she wanted, she attacked individuals directly about their character, rather than making comments or genuine criticisms about like the behavior of someone's character or the outcome, rather than the person themselves. And I think this is the true differentiation that we need to draw between criticism and bullying. Criticism, for all intents and purposes, needs to be somewhat constructive in that it identifies areas where potential maximums are not being attained, and then it correctly identifies what contributing factors are in that. Where it becomes bullying is where you have not differentiated behaviors from people. All right, you've just said the behavior is the person, therefore an attack on the person is an attack on the behavior, and the same outcome is reached. And I'm not going to deny that. To some degree, the same outcome may be reached. You attack the person and they change their behavior, you can argue that you've had a successful outcome. However, the damage you've done to the individual in that methodology is simply unnecessary and unacceptable. People love saying unacceptable, but it's bullshit. Don't believe them when they do it. Everything's acceptable to a degree, but let me just express that in a way that's understandable. It is unacceptable in that regard. So, yeah, I have no doubt she went after people. People that she thought were standing in her way or not allowing her to maximize her potential. I mean, even if their potential was higher than hers. All right, this is kind of the net the sum zero game approach, right? I'm going to achieve my maximum potential, hopefully with minimum effort, and anything that derives a drain on that is actually working against me. Okay, even if the drain has a much more efficient output, so it diverts the energy or whatever, finance, whatever it is, and the output is far more efficient. That actually is not my concern, because the system itself, everything that isn't me, has the potential to damage me. So anything I can divert from that is a benefit to myself. All right, this is the sum zero approach, because you believe that there's no shared ground. It's us or them, and if they succeed, we fail. So stopping their success is as valuable as promoting our success. Anyway, I've dribbled on about this for way too long, but I've got to say, this whole thing blowing up, it's not surprising. I find it interesting, the target of it. I think that there's something to be said about, the acceptable enemy. Who do we accept? It's the scapegoat argument, really. It's just the notion that if I can't directly attack what's really responsible, I'll find an achievable and acceptable alternative, and then I'll just put it all on that. At least then I can cathartically express it without necessarily solving the problem. Right? So, like, you're the angry guy, your boss bullies you at work, so you go home and hit your wife. Like, you can't hit the boss because the ramifications of trying to reach that balance in your emotions is too high, even if it's justified. But you can go away and just harm someone else, someone who it's safe to harm, and then you feel like you've got your job done, you've somehow expressed it correctly, but really you've not solved anything, and someone suffered. And in this case, I'm absolutely willing to see Priti Patel as a bit of a victim here. Alright, not because of the way they wanted me to see her as the victim, which is the victim of her own ignorance, right? She's not ignorant, that's the lie. The truth is that she's victim because they're all doing this, it's just that she was the acceptable person to go after for, she was the one who we could call out on it to some degree, and therefore that's the acceptable face of bullying and harassment because we think women are bitches. Alright, okay, well, that's all I've got to say on that. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you around, guys.